Okay, thanks for coming to my session about the AST. I just actually had a question asking how much knowledge do you need about the AST for this talk, and this is going to be kind of zero, and we'll go through it. Basically, today we're going to learn what the AST is, and basically how you can use this knowledge you can use it for like finding parts of scripts or manipulating scripts, and in this session we're going to look at how you can use that knowledge to write PSScriptAnalyzer rules and VS Code editor commands. As I said, I'm not a classically trained developer. I don't have a computer science degree or anything, and I was a sysadmin. I still kind of do sysadmin kind of things. And I'd read a lot of blog posts about the AST, and I knew what I could do, but I didn't know why or how it worked. So this presentation is like the result of what I would have liked to see to try and actually understand the AST, because I think once you know how it works, then it's really not difficult, and there's a lot of jargon there which can be confusing. So that's kind of the goal for this, just to kind of demystify what it is. We're going to have a look. There's some like 3 tools we're going to look at, so you can kind of visualize the AST, which is really nice when you're trying to work against it. And then, as I said, we'll be finishing off by writing a couple of PSScriptAnalyzer rules and editor services commands. So I thought I'd start with a glossary, because like these are words that I saw, and I kind of like, what does this mean? You know, an extent. I don't know, but. Basically, these are the kind of main words you'll be looking at when you're looking at the AST. And a token is each like word or grammatical object of a script. So you like have a left curly braces, which is called left curly braces, and then you have like different kinds of tokens for commands. They're strings. We're going to go through this later. The tokenizer is basically the part of the code that actually turns a script into these tokens. And then once the script has been made up, but once these tokens have been made, then the parser is the part of the PowerShell engine that basically puts all these tokens together into a tree-like structure called the AST, the abstract syntax tree. I can't say like 100%, but like most languages have an AST. I think the C# has an AST. I think Python has an AST. This is something that's very common in programming languages. I'm like looking for Stefan here, because I know. So, yeah, he's nodding. So yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it does like static analysis on the code. So yeah. This isn't something that's unique to PowerShell. This is something that's pretty common when you're trying to create a programming language. This is a really simple example. I just done this little code block at the bottom. If true, write output psconf for you is awesome. And above this is a visualization of the AST of this script block. So you can see how the computer traverses through this tree. So it starts at the beginning, which is always a script block AST, and then it goes through, and then there's an if AST. There's different AST types for each construct in a script. So there's a conditional if AST, a command AST, a pipeline AST. We'll have a look through this, and then you can see this is how the parse or the compiler like goes through the code in like a machine readable way. Extents, this was like, I just wanted to show what an extent was. It's just a block of actual text. And then you've got like properties there that show you the start line number of the text, the end line number, which column it starts at, the end column. So this is like an extent for this whole block. And if we look at the next one, if we just want to look at the extent for the right output line, you can see here like the start line number is 2, the start column number is 5. So it's just a descriptor of like where that actual text is. It's nothing. This was confusing me, but maybe it's confusing other people. So I thought I'd go through this. This is the really crappy script that I wrote to do an example. After I'd done this, I'm like, what was I thinking? Format table in a function? But I was just like trying to, I wanted a variable assignment in there. I wanted some pipelines, because I wanted to show like how different pieces of the script are turned into like AST objects. So the first thing that PowerShell does is it turns this into tokens. And this does it by reading through, it scans through each string and looking to see, oh, what does this denote? So we have like the open curly braces there, which says, oh, there's a script block coming up. And you can see like there's a variable there, which is the $, and these are just like, it creates a big array of these tokens. And then once it's, there's a token flag as well, which like kind of like tells what kind of properties that token has. So the parser can put some logic in there and say, okay, I need to create this AST object. So this is going to be done in 1 second. So that's the tokenizer. So now there's a list of tokens, and the next part is to actually where the parser comes in and takes this list of tokens and says, okay, I'm going to build an AST. And the AST is made up of like 37, I can't remember, different types of AST objects. As I said, you have like an if object, you have a pipeline AST, you have a command AST, you have a variable assignment AST, and it basically reads through each part. So now it's going to start at the beginning and say, okay, we want to do a script block. One thing I will say is that when I was researching this, I like read through the actual parser.cs in PowerShell on GitHub, and I was expecting something I wouldn't understand, but it's actually not that difficult. I could follow it along. If I can follow it along, anyone can follow it along. So yes, we start looping through this, and it's going to say, okay, it's going to create a script block, and then it's going to create a names block. It always creates a name block, and it's always an end block as well. Like you have like a begin and a process and an end block, and if you don't specify any of those, it's always going to be an end block by default. And then it's going to say, okay, I've found a function token here. I'm going to create a function, and as you can see, each one of these objects is within the parent object. So it's going to keep on going through the tokens, and here we go, script block AST, and then it's found a param block AST, an assignment AST, and now So it's just going to go through all these tokens and start building up this tree-like structure of all these AST objects. Is this clear? You know, following along? So yeah, once this has gone through, we've got the variable expressions AST. I will quickly show like the AST objects if you're interested. And then just to really point out that this is a tree, we can see there's all the AST types, and it goes into a nice tree. So, that was my slides. You have no idea how much time I spent on those. 2 minutes. But yeah, I'm going to go into code now to start kind of showing you stuff and kind of using this knowledge. So here I've got like my really crappy script that I had on the screen, and I've basically assigned it to a script block. And if I'll run this one. Can everyone see? Bigger. Better? Okay, so we'll have a look at some of the tools you can use to kind of visualize this. The one that I actually that I use most is show PSAST, which is written by Jason Shirk, who used to work on the PowerShell team. And this uses Windows Forms. So at this point, when I was practicing, I had to break out into Windows PowerShell to use it. And then last Friday, they released PowerShell 7, which has Windows Forms support. So now I can run it in PowerShell 7. So if I take my crappy script there and run show AST, and we'll find it here. Here it is. So here you can see a tree structure of all the different AST objects that's making up my script. And it's the really cool bit is if you like start going through things, you can see it highlights the actual extent of that AST. So you can start, if you're like trying to look for a part of your function on your script, then you can easily go here and you can say, okay, it's like a string constant expression AST here if I want to pull out that string Anthony Allen. And then the next one that I'll show is the editor AST PS drive, editor AST provider, which is written by a guy called Patrick Meinecke. If you haven't looked at his GitHub, like everything he writes is gold. The guy is a genius. And this was actually the one that got the penny to drop with me, because I think it's something like working with drives. I'll show you basically. But if you install this module, editor AST provider, and create a new editor AST PS drive, it creates a new drive in the ISE called current file. And here I can CD to the current file. If I pull this up a bit. Yeah. Thank you. So, yep. Okay. So now you can see I'm actually in the AST as a PS drive. It's using ships in the background to create a drive, and I can do things like an ls. I can CD to the script block AST, or it's the root. I can just tab through it. Oh, here's an M block. Let's have a look what's in here. Or this is the entire contents of my script visualized as a PS drive. It's really, really cool. But so yeah, this is the one that made me feel, okay, that's how it works, you know. So yeah, we'll just go back to where I was. And then the third one, I only actually found out about when I was tweeting about me doing the slides, and it's like Kevin Marquette's written this as an extension module to his PSGraph module. So you can basically install this PSGraph Plus, it's called, and you run your script block through it, and it will create a nice, I hope this works, yeah. And you'll get that nice flowchart kind of diagram that I showed in the beginning with a really simple example. So that's another really cool thing. So there's two ways to get to the AST, really. The first one is if you have a script block, then it's got an AST property on there. So you can just like look at the AST here, because it's just an object with like, and you can start going through there. Like if we have a look at, we haven't always have the end block, and then I think it's statements in here, and then you have like statement 0. It's not so much fun to traverse it on the command line. It's a lot easier using some of the tools I mentioned. And then the other way is using the parser class. So you have a system management automation language parser pass file, and that will also give you the tokens if you want them. You can just do like a ref null here if you don't want them. But you can, sometimes it's interesting. When I was writing this, I was looking through the tokens, of course. And yeah, and then you can also like just using raw text. There's a parse inputs which does the same thing, just on raw text instead. So this is, if you're trying to find something with an AST, the AST is basically made up of an abstract class called AST, and then all the other AST ob types, the conditionals and the script blocks AST, they inherit this AST type, and the AST type has two methods that you two methods, find and find all, which you use to find these parts in your script if you're looking for them. And find all basically takes a script block as a parameter, and in that script block you add a parameter which gives the AST, and then you want to do some kind of something that returns true or false depending on what you're looking for. It's called a predicate in programming language. But yeah, so you can, if you wanted to, you don't have to add this param here. You can do something like args 0 just to get the first argument. So when you run this find all, it's just going to put in every single AST, and if it matches, if it returns true, it's like a where object on the AST. So here I'm looking for the function definitions in my script. If I run this and have a look at functions, and here we go. This is the actual function AST object from my script. We can look at the yeah, it's the function definition AST. This is the actual function. So this is kind of nice if you just want to get the function names. I've used this for passing out all the function names in the module and then putting them into the PSD1 file. But this is also kind of the basis of what you want to do when you're writing PSScriptAnalyzer rules or editor services commands, which we'll be looking at soon. So now we'll start looking at the script analyzer rules. I'm guessing most people have used this. If I go to I have like a scratch with nothing. If you do like a lsc/temp, then it will give you a green squiggly. and then you can like click on that green squiggly if you want, and it will give you show fixes, and you can replace it. And that's PSScriptAnalyzer working in the background. And basically this works by looking in the AST for these certain rules. This one looks for just aliases, and then obviously it'll resolve those for you, and you can use that little light bulb to change it in your code. So as an example here, I don't like having really long pipelines in the script. So 2 pipeline objects is okay. I'll show you what I mean. So where name like, and then I might have like a for each here, something. So now I've got like 3 objects in my pipeline, and I don't think it's very nice to look at in the script. So if you see, I've got a nice big green squiggly line here now, because this is the rule that I've written to detect this. And then also you can click the light bulb. Pipeline is more than 2 elements long and on a single line, and it will fix it, and it will format it nicely over to several lines. So now we're going to see how we did this. Rules, custom rules. Okay, this is maybe if I do this. So when you're writing a PSScriptAnalyzer rule, you basically create a function that takes one parameter, which is going to be an AST. And PSScriptAnalyzer is just going to like read the scripts, get all the script AST, and put it into your rule, and then you're going to return like a diagnostic object, depending if you hit a rule violation. So here it's like PSScriptAnalyzer is going to throw in the script block AST, which is the whole AST. And then you want to write this predicate, this rule that detects what you're looking for. So here I'm looking for where the AST is like a pipeline AST, which is it has all the piped commands in a single pipeline. And then pipeline elements. Every command that you have in the pipeline is in this pipeline elements. So it's just an array of commands in the pipeline. So if the count is greater than 2, that means we have more than 2 piped commands here, and the start extent line number and the end line number are the same. That means we have 3 piped commands on the same line, and let's go, okay, that's the rule we're looking for, that we don't want that. So the next thing we have to do, we have to actually run this through the script block AST find, or the parameter that we got from PSScriptAnalyzer. One thing I will say here is there's an option, there's an argument here to the find all, which specifies if you want to search in nested script blocks in the AST, set that to false, because I spent several hours trying to work out why it wasn't working, and that's because PSScriptAnalyzer pulls out each script block and then feeds it into your rule. So if you have a function and then some kind of line within the function, you're going to get 2 script blocks, and it's going to throw 2 rules, and then VS Code just gets really confused and doesn't do anything. So I was working this out for a couple of hours, and I went onto Git, and I ended up going onto GitHub, and I found an issue written by Jason Shirk, and I'm like, I'm in good company here. So it's not just me. He had exactly the same problem, but yeah, so specify that to false, and you won't get any headaches. And then basically, the next thing I do is I get the extent of that pipeline that I'm trying to fix, and I look at where the start column number is. So you have like white space, and the start column number will be where text first shows up. So I want to get the indent here, so when it formats it, if I could like have a nice long indent, and it will indent it nicely. So I calculate the indent here, which is the start column line number -1. So if it's like 4 spaces, that will be 4 times spaces. And then basically I got to get the extent, the text of that pipeline that I want to fix, and I just basically replace the pipeline and a white space, optional white space, with a new pipeline and a system.environment new line plus the indent, and that will just split it into several lines. Use the new line instead of doing like the backtick n, because then it's cross-platform. Sometimes you have like carriage return line feeds, and obviously in Linux you have only line feeds. So yeah, basically, and then we go through each. I just did this to make it more readable later on, putting the line numbers and the column numbers into their own variable. And then we have to create an actual extent, or this is the actual correction extent. When you pass back the diagnostic record to PSScriptAnalyzer, then you have like a correction extent. It's optional, you don't have to have it, and this will have the text that you can replace it with that was just created. So basically we want to tell it the start line number where we want to start the replacement, the start end line number, the start column number, the end column line number, and the actual correction text. So basically it's going to replace all that text in that piece of extent with the new text. And then we just add that to a collection. And then finally, we just create a diagnostic record, which is what PSScriptAnalyzer is expecting back. So here we have like a message, why it's violating the rule, the extent where the actual rule's being violated, the rule name, which is just the function name, a severity warning. This is probably more informational. I don't know why I did warning. And then suggested corrections is like the suggested extent that we just did. So that is how you create a ScriptAnalyzer rule. Clear? Any questions on this? Pardon? So the next one I want to show is like the editor commands, and this is really, really cool because some of the stuff you have to do to find ASTs, there's these helper functions inside. I'll show you. If you open up VS Code and you look for get command module, I think it's PowerShell editor services commands, there's a bunch of commands here that really help you finding things in the AST. I'll just show you quickly what you can do with edit commands. There's this guy, Patrick Marnekis, who I mentioned just now. He's got a module called the Editor Services Command Suite. It's on GitHub here. It's in the PS gallery, and he's got like a description of all the rules here. And I'll just demo some of them. The first thing we probably want to do, that you probably want to add to your profile, is import the module. It's command suite, it's already, and then you have to actually import those functions into VS Code. So import editor command module editor services. Why isn't it doing it? So like someone was asking me, I was speaking to someone the other day and they said, oh yeah, we use IST and IC steroids because there's functionality like converting selected code into functions. And I was like, yeah, this functionality exists in Editor Services Command Suite. So I mean, like, if we just take this selection here and we want to make a reusable function out of this, then you can go into the commands, and then there's PowerShell commands, show additional commands from PowerShell modules here. And then here, these are all the functions that come with Editor Services Command Suite. So we can actually do something like create a new function from selection. Okay, do stuff. We want it inline maybe, and then that'll basically convert that script block into a function and then call it at the end. It's not as smart as the IC steroids one where you can choose what variables you want to do, but I think I've got like an idea how you can maybe do that, and I'll work on that maybe later, or speak to Patrick and see if he's got any ideas maybe. One thing that's really, really cool that some people don't know is if you have like a really long command path, and then it gets like a really long command in like, oh, I should really splat this. Then you can go back to these commands, and there's actually a convert to splat expression here. So you can, yeah, see, this is really cool stuff. I'm not taking this credit. I'm not taking the credit. This is Patrick. Patrick's the genius here. To give him the round of applause. But yeah, that was just like showing some of these commands. And there's like one way you can do. I actually have to switch to. If you're writing PowerShell classes and you're trying to implement interfaces, I'll just quit. It doesn't work in PowerShell Core. I was just trying it before this and I couldn't get it to work. Import. Okay, if you like have an disposable, maybe just and then you want to implement that. Here's something for this as well. Expand closest type to implementation, and they'll actually create a class view with all the methods that you want, like Visual Studio does. So yeah, some really cool stuff in there. Like everything there is really good. Go and check it out. Pardon? Yeah, sure. It's just basically I typed in disposable, and his commands created a new an implementation of that, and implemented. In this case, it only has one method in the interface, which is dispose. So yeah, this kind of is built into Visual Studio, but not. I think you can do it with C# in VS Code, but not PowerShell. So this saves you time if you're doing kind of classes and implementing interfaces and or abstract classes and stuff like that. So yeah, So now I'm going to show you how you can actually create these editor commands. The one that I wanted to do was when I'm writing I'm trying to do this kind of a weird case, but sometimes when I'm just like quickly scripting stuff, and I'll like and then I'll do a for each on here. And I'm like, yeah, do get name, just because I'm like trying to get stuff done in the command. And then from a performance perspective, maybe I want to actually convert that to a for each loop. So stuff. So basically, I created this command. I'll have to import it. Module. And then. And now we can go back to the show additional commands, and we should have convert for each to for each loop. And that'll basically convert, it'll take everything on the pipeline before the for each object and then put it into a new variable, and then it will, oh no, I've done the massive mistake of changing my code before I did the presentation. So I promise this was working. I probably know why that's not working. But yeah. 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 Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah, that's yeah. Okay, so it was me. Yeah, doing typos on stage. Yeah. Yeah. So now it works. So yeah, this you might not want to do this, but I thought it's kind of like a fairly simple, although it didn't end up being that simple when I was doing it. So basically, when inside editor command services, you have this function, helper function, find AST, and it is awesome. It is like, it just saves you so much time of like finding stuff in the AST. And I was speaking to Tyler like an hour ago, and I said, we need to pull this out, because if you want to work with the AST, this find AST is just, I used it in my PS readline demo. And basically what you can do is wherever your cursor is, you can have and that will give you the smallest AST at your cursor. So here I am in, let's see what type it is. Parent expression AST. Yeah, I'm like here somewhere. So this is giving me the smallest possible AST it can find in a tree where the current cursor is. And then you can pipe that to like start looking up the tree. Maybe you want to find the next the function that bit of that part of code is actually contained in, and it makes it really easy. So if I wanted to like find the function that was in, I can pipe that to find AST ancestor. I want to find the first one, and then it filter script is function. I think it's function definition AST. Yeah. And that will give me the function that bit of script's contained in. So it's really nice. Like if you wanted to type this, you could do this with find all on the AST objects, but be a lot more code than using this helper function. It's awesome. So yeah, what we want to do with this for each object is, first of all, we want to find wherever the cursor is at the moment, which we get in as the parameter here, the AST, it's just got a default find AST at cursor. We want to find that for each object that's closest to it at the moment. So here I'm doing that find AST. I've got the AST where I'm at the cursor at the moment, and then I'm trying to find an AST object with a command element that's called for each object, and it works with aliases as well, because if I run this next get command alias, and the actual, if it's like a % sign, it will resolve that to for each object, so it works for aliases as well. And then I want to find the actual script block for that, so I get my for each object, and now I want to go the other direction, down the tree, and find the first script block AST, because then I know that's the actual script block of my for each object. And then next, what you need to do now is, because in here, this $item here was like a $_. Now, if you have some more stuff in here, like a where object, a where command, where object, and you do like stuff like this, you don't want to replace the things in this where object. So you only want to replace the $_ in the actual scope of the for each object script block. So if we go back, what I do is basically, there might be an easier way to do this, but I basically I create a little helper function here that takes the string, and I find the first $_ and then replace it, and then pass it again, and then go find the next one and pass it again and find the next one. So yeah, I'm like using the pass input here, and then finding the first variable expression, which has the name like just underscore or PS item, which you can use instead of $_. And I basically replace that with just $item. And then we create the for each text, which is basically, this is just like a string with for each item in items, and then I want to put in the actual script block that we've just pulled out from the for each object. Yeah, and then we're doing this search and replace for the actual $_ or the PS item, and then we're just replacing that with $item in this case. That was fairly tricky to do. As I said, there's maybe an easier way to do that, but that's kind of the way I ended up doing it. Yeah, and then basically what we need to do is, because there can be very many pipeline commands here that you want to take out before this for each object. So here, I'm just basically saying that the pipeline elements AST has obviously this array with all the commands in the pipeline, like in 0, 1, 2. So the last object, or the last object in this pipeline elements is always going to be the for each object. So I want to take out all the pipeline elements apart from the for each object. So that's why I have like this 0 here, so I'm taking from the beginning, and then I take from -2 from the end. So I'm taking all the pipeline objects apart from the actual for each object at the end. And then there's this helper function as well, which is built into VS Code, which is convert to script extent, and that will basically convert that text into something that I can actually put back into the editor. And then, yeah, basically, what's going on here? I create this items extent, which is like items equals, and then this new extent that I've created, the actual text, and then I basically put that back into put it back into the editor, and that's these last commands here are the actual parts that update the script extent in the editor, replace the old string with a new string that we've just created on the fly. So that is basically how that works. Yeah. Any questions on writing editor commands? I'm looking at Matthias, and he's got this great big grin on his face, and I'm thinking, oh no. So yeah, let's see what I have in go back to my demo. One thing you do, this is probably good to mention, but when you're writing your script analyzer rules, it's kind of hairy to get it to work in VS Code, so I can maybe run through that pretty quickly. What you actually have to do is you have to go in and create a settings.json in your workspace, or this can be a global settings as well. and then you have to specify where the settings are for PSScriptAnalyzer. So here I just have a relative path, which is under rules, custom rules settings, and then in that settings file, you have to tell that where the actual settings are. So, well, not here. This is the settings file for PSScriptAnalyzer. So here I'm just telling it my custom rules are in this PSM1 file. It has to be a PSM1, a module file, and then I want to include the default rules as well. So then I'm basically telling VS Code where it can, and ScriptAnalyzer where it can find my custom rules. So that's kind of what you need to do if you want to do that. And that was kind of that. Let's see. I'm 10 minutes early. So just a summary, like the AST is just the tree structure of the code. It's nothing difficult than that. The main thing I wanted to point out was it's not complicated. There's a lot of big words there, and once you break that out, it's the actual kind of concept of it isn't difficult. And then once you understand like how it works, writing your own rules it can maybe look a bit kind of hairy, but yeah, I'm just looking up and down a tree for certain things that I know are called maybe like a function or a variable assignment. So yeah, and then once you know that, you can start writing your own rules and your own kind of resharper like stuff in VS Code, which is really cool. And yeah, editor server command suite. If you don't have it, go and install it. It's awesome. Slides and demo code. I've already done a pull request. They should already be there, maybe, if that's been accepted. Questions? Yes?
So I'm really bad when I'm writing our modules about setting them up in a way that Parstel wants to structure things. Is there any, using that, I can imagine a way you could extract all your functions out of a massive long script?
Yeah. The question was if you'd like have a massive script with lots of functions, then you could use the AST to pull it out. This is, I think I showed this at the beginning when you just do you run find all with function definition AST, like $args0, the first argument is function definition AST, and that will find all the functions in your script and return them. And there's like a property there for name. I can maybe show it quickly. Where are we? So if I go back to... Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you. So if I go back to my dummy script here, I've got this function called invoke ego. If I'm dummy script, yeah. Okay, and then we can just basically find funct is AST find all. We have the script log $args0 is function definition AST. Yeah, function definition AST. And then we don't want to search nested script blocks. I'm missing, oh yeah. Where am I missing it? Oh, sorry. It hasn't saved it because it's still... Yeah, thank you. There. So functs. Oh yeah. So if we have a look, I think we have like the name there. Yeah, invoke ego, there's the name of the function. So that you can just run, yeah. So then you can get the name of all your functions there. Yeah, as I said, I've used that for pulling out all the functions from my modules and then putting it into the PSD1 file in functions to export without having to do that manually. there's some modules that help you with that as well. But yeah. Yes?
I don't know if this is already there, but I think an issue I find, at least on AST with namespaces, is like if you're in C# land in Visual Studio, you can mouse over a class and see the full namespace.
Yeah.
Is there something in here that could...
No, the kind of IntelliSense. Oh, sorry. Yeah. He's like saying in Visual Studio, you can like put in the cursor over the namespace, and you can get a lot more info. There's kind of limited support for that in VS Code. That's kind of not anything to do with this. This is the actual part of the editor services, I believe, that kind of does all the IntelliSense for you. But yeah, I don't think that you can do that. You could open an issue to...
Not so much namespace, but if you've got like you've used namespace in a class to know what that class is.
Okay.
I mean a .NET object.
Okay, and then you've namespaced the class, and
You've got environment. So
yeah.
System.environment.
Yeah. Yeah, you've namespaced the class, and you basically want to get where the namespace of that class is. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. One thing I was thinking about doing, I wanted to do it, I only got the idea like 2 days ago, and I wanted to do it for this presentation, was sometimes when I was actually writing the editor commands in here, or even in the custom rules, you know, you got a lot of these references to like AST, System Management Automation Language, AST. Where what you can do is at the top you can just write using namespace system management, and then I wanted to go through and change all those long commands to just the AST, the actual name of the class, which is something that should be, I know how to do it, and it should be pretty easy, but yeah.
But I think there's readability issues with that code then, because when you come back and try to know which namespace is this one using.
Yeah, true.
How to surface that?
You could do that, because I think in the type expression that is like wondering how you could, if you're going back to the code and then you see like something that's called just AST instead of the fully namespace name, you don't know where that's coming from, and it can be like not readable. You can actually pass the AST, and then under, I think it's type expression AST, you can actually see the underlying type. So you can pull that out from the AST, but I'm not quite sure how you'd kind of put that into your workflow. Maybe you could use the AST to write a comment there to tell you where that's coming from.
Thank you.
Yes?
So the AST representing type elements in PowerShell are type name ASTs, and they will offer reference to the reflected types of the actual.
Yeah.
So you could use that to display tooltip or.
Yeah, exactly. Matthias said like this. There's a reflected type in the actual type AST. I can't remember what was the actual name of it. It was type name. Is it type name? Yeah. So you got the reflect. It's a property of that the type name AST object. So yeah, you can pull that out and do some kind of tooltip. But I'm not sure you could kind of do that with editor services commands. You'd probably have to. That'd probably be more in the actual editor services. Kind of code there. It's not something I think we could do as an extension module or anything. Yeah. Yes.
One of the scenarios where I use finding functions, which you mentioned, is that if you go to a customer or maybe your own company, you have a lot of scripts that have been created a long time ago, and they just copying functions from one script to another function. You just want to have an inventory of all the scripts where that function is being used, and you want to put them all in a module, for instance. Then you can easily use this and then find out, okay, where is this function used in all the scripts I have, and you just iterate over focus where those scripts are, and that helps you make an inventory of functions being reused in a large number of scripts.
Yeah, Stefan's just basically said that you can use this. He's used it at customers using the AST to get an inventory of all the functions that the customers have in their scripts and pulling it out the similar way that I just showed you. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to point out a real quick tip. I found out that you can actually use the editor commands within the integrated terminal as well.
Yeah.
Text where your cursor is in the file that's open.
Yeah, exactly. I showed that. Yeah. He said that you can use the find AST to find the AST at the cursor, and yeah.
Type in to go to use line expression in the integrated terminal.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The editor service commands, you can actually, they're just functions, and you can run those in the, without having to go through the drop downs, and it'll run the same command. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back here. Any more questions? Just a hint. Go in, tell me good things. You can make it anonymous, they can tell me bad things as well. Yeah, just let me know how. This is the first time I've spoken like publicly at PSConf.eu, so just give me, I'd really love some feedback. Give me a vote, and yeah, it's been really fun. Thank you.